Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 23rd, 2021 at approximately 8:45 a.m. PST. Well, yesterday was a rough day for us, but that being said, we got through it. The biggest problem that I run into is I keep making the mistake of expecting things to actually be done the way that I feel they should have been done. And like, for instance, I signed a contract and figured that everything was just, and once they said it was all in the go, I find out that that's not the way it goes. Now, I don't know whether it's me that doesn't understand it or whether it's the people that are telling me. What I do know is it gets extremely frustrating. However, and I'm sure you go through the same thing. You set plans in motion, somebody says they're going to do something, or somebody says something's done, then you find out that they didn't do it. It almost feels half the time like I have to know exactly what the other person is supposed to be doing and how to do it. Just about. Technologically, it's just a question of I've got to make certain that I know what they should be able to do, and then let them do it. Because there are things like, for instance, I was playing a game this morning, Horizon. There are parts in the game that I just plan. This is on computer. There are parts in the game that I just cannot do. Right. I've tried as much as I can, but quite frankly, it's kind of like running blind half the time with part of this game. So I had to come to grips with the idea that when I get to these points, I just turn to my son and go, "You make it happen." Because he'll get me through it, and I can play most of the game, probably 90% of it. But there are sections that I just do not have the capacity to do. It's very much like if there's a skill that you're missing, for whatever reason, you're going to have to turn to other people. Now, the reality is everybody is in the same boat. Okay, so that said, okay, and I was just watching something the other day, and I'm going to do my best to get in the habit of doing this. But if you like the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, okay, so you can get the rest of the videos coming out, and specifically, there's 2 extra categories, other than the journey, which is the one that we're doing right now, okay, but I've also done up a subset called language, that explains some of the words that are actually self-deprecating in any language. Okay, things like want, need, try. These are words that actually are self-deprecating if you don't understand them. They can be used and they're very necessary in certain aspects. But you've got to understand the implications of what you're working with. So that's the one set. If you look in my back videos, you'll find a subset called language that covers a number of different words that are self-deprecating in any language. Okay, I thought I had 9. It just clued in the other day. I now have, I think, a 10th one. I really have to run the numbers. The reality of it is, from that standpoint, you take a look at those. They will help you understand. Yes, I get sidetracked a little. Welcome to live recording. A live recording for me is simple. I do the recording, make sure I got the date right. Unfortunately, I just read that off my computer. So I don't usually mess that up. And then I just post it as is. So all the hiccups, all the odd quirks and what have you that you see, if you ever run into me in person, you'll find I'm exactly the same way. Okay. Now, of course, the odds of running into me in person are pretty limited, aside from the other subset of videos I do, which is called Races of the Worlds. Okay, that is the off-world races, what you would call aliens, and ancient races, which are the old races that many people think are mythological. Okay, so with that in mind, take a look at those. Okay, and of course, if you're looking to hear me live, the first Friday of every month, I am on the internet on spacedoutradio.com with R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Okay, I've been there for 6 years now, which is why I say you can find me there. I'm not planning on quitting anytime soon. And as far as I know, they're not planning on letting me go. All I'm doing here is actually making a quick little note. Because my left hand doesn't write fast enough, it's easier to write it for the moment, because I'm just writing through the number of words that I've actually pieced together just off the top of my head. Okay, and the nice little part about it is that once you understand the way language works, understanding that language, the spoken word, takes your thoughts and gives them physical form. The moment you utter something, you draw it out of the etheric plane into the material world, where it can be made manifest. It can be transferred to other people. And speaking of transferring to other people, since we're on the term of energy, okay, look up, there is another video. It was actually done on, it's in the set of The Journey. But it literally focused on Feng Shui, which is energy manipulation or energy guidance, if you will. Because energy will continue moving. It doesn't matter what you do. It's kind of like water. Water, you can slow it down. Okay, but you cannot stop it. Just take a look at the Ice Age. That didn't work out well, trying to stop it even by freezing it. Okay, so with that in mind, Feng Shui in Western society, Eastern society is great, but from that standpoint, they build the whole culture on it. Western society doesn't do that, but the principle still applies. Okay, which is where you put things in place to make sure that the energy goes. And what I mean by put them in place, in your office, pick one spot wherever you work on your finances. Pick one spot that's where your money sits. Be it a cash box, be it your books, doesn't matter. Okay, pick one spot where you have it. Pick one spot where you focus your family. Okay. Usually, like in my case, my family photos are all in one section of the hall. Okay, and the way I did that, and the reason I did that, is because, frankly, it was there. And I wanted the pictures all in one place, or at least the majority of them. This doesn't mean I don't have pictures elsewhere, but it does mean that that's where the focal point is. It gives an access point. Okay, so do look at the Feng Shui video. Okay, and understand something. If you're not content with your life, if you're not happy with the way your life is running right now, let's say you're going to church and you're praying every day and things just still aren't working. There may be a reason for that. Okay, one of the problems that I've noticed with a lot of the mainstream religious leaders, the mainstream, what they call New Age, and even some of the support groups, I mean, they're great things to have. But if that person is leading you down a path that they are not following themselves, or they are talking to you and reinforcing the idea of you will always be in this way, you'll always be a problem. Well, it's called basing things on fear. Okay, on fear, on control, or in this case, on taking it away from you. The reality of success is this. I mean, the reality of changing your life for what you consider the better is very simple. You're the only one on the planet that can be successful for you. Even for that matter, you're the only one off the planet. Okay, because the reality is, yes, you can get the guidance from everybody you know. Okay, and for pity's sakes, if you're talking to somebody that you're looking for guidance, make sure they have successfully done it. Okay, that is just the reality of it. Okay, if they haven't successfully done it, then what they're talking about is theory. And theory is great. That's what you work with until you can prove it. And this is why I do tell people that science and religion are extremely compatible. Because the religious side of things, the spiritual side, is there to explain the inexplicable until such time as science can figure it out. Okay, we knew, people knew a long time ago that something created these massive valleys. It wasn't until science figured it out that we found out that the ice had actually flown forth and carve the valleys out. Okay, and this is where science comes in. So, you've got these massive mountainous regions that scientists can now explain. What they haven't quite pieced together is the why. Now, I cannot prove it. A lot of what I do, can we try one thought? What do you think? A lot of the information I give is based on practical experience. This does not mean I can prove it. Okay, the reality is this. Okay, in today's world, I cannot even prove to you that I'm actually breathing and right here. For all you literally know, I'm not debating the videos here, and I can tell you I'm recording it live. But the reality is, you don't know that for certain unless you're in this room with me. And if you are, I want to know about it, because I can't see you. Okay, so from that standpoint, the reality of it all is that you have to take a look at exactly how you desire your life to change. If you're not content with your life, it's time to make a change. Now, people talk about change being difficult, change being frightening, change being almost impossible in most cases. Well, you'll notice, you close your hand, you open your hand, you've just changed. And unless you're suffering from severe arthritis or something else, that's not going to hurt. Okay. What they don't tell you is that it is doable. Your body can actually correct it. Now, where it comes to successful, to your success, the reality of your success is by taking a look at things, by organizing your life, by getting this list together by getting this list together that I've talked about. 3 things on the list. Okay. And with those 3 things, don't mind me, I heard a phone ring and was looking around to see where mine was. And that being said, I'm going to put this on pause. I'll be right back. Well, like I said, had to take off because I heard something ding and I thought it was a phone. Well, it wasn't. Found my phone though. Okay, anyway, where it comes to changing your life, the reason for putting the emphasis on that is because of this. If you take your life, and if you're not content with it, even if you're in, like I was saying, if you're in a spiritual path, and you're still not feeling complete, there is an old saying that goes, God helps those that help themselves. Well, it doesn't just refer to thieves. Okay, it means when you desire something to happen, talk to whoever you need to, get the guidance, get the support from whoever you feel it's required from. Okay, but you're still going to have to pick up your feet and make it happen. You're the only one that can do it. Okay. Now, yes, you can learn to manipulate people to get them to do it for you. But karmic law dictates, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. This said, if you don't personally desire to be controlled, then do not make the mistake of striving to control somebody else. It's just a bad idea because it'll come back to bite you. Okay. It may work for a little while, but it's not a good move. Karmic law is pretty cut and dried on that end. Be true to yourself. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. If you follow those 3, then you can take your life and turn your life around into what you consider a better life. Now, granted, that causes a problem if you consider a better life being, I'm in control of everybody around me, and they don't desire to be controlled. Well, you're not going to be happy anyway because they'll fight you on it. Okay. The reality is it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. We're all starting in exactly the same place. Right here, right now. This is the only time that you can ever change anything. Okay. You can talk about the changes that were not made that would have been an idea. You know the old saying, if I knew then what I know now. Well, that's a real big idea. It's a great thought. But the problem is, if you knew then what you know now, then you'd have been now. Okay, and since you can't go back and change that, take a look at it and go, oh, I should have done that before. I would have liked to have done that before. I didn't. Now go and do it. You can talk about the changes you would like to make happen. But again, if you don't get off your tail feathers, they won't happen. I'd like the sun to rise in the west. Well, I don't know if that's a good idea, but it would be entertaining. But I'll tell you, talk about wreaking havoc on the rest of the world. Okay, so if you're not content, if where you're going for group support, for guidance, for spiritual support, if you're not feeling completed, there's nothing holding you there except your own ego. Okay, people may be saying if you leave this group, nobody's going to want to talk to you. Well, there are roughly 7.5 billion to 8 billion people on the planet. The group you're around right now is not the only group. And unfortunately, sometimes what happens is people get so caught up in what's written down, that somebody else has written down, that they miss the purpose. Okay, for instance, one of the big things people, when people tell me, I've got to watch my sugar levels. Well, in all fairness, until it became a complication, I didn't pay any attention to that. Once I started paying attention to it, I found out that sugar isn't the biggest problem. Okay, it's because I took it as they're talking the granulated sugar that you can buy. The reality is that there is food and drink that become straight sugar, and that's where it becomes a problem. Okay, which meant as soon as I figured that out, I'd already wiped alcohol pretty much out of my diet completely anyway. But pasta was another problem. Okay, I used to eat a lot of pasta. I've cut way back on that. And the reason for it is because pasta, from what I gather, what I've been told is it turns into sugar, which is fine. The more important thing was not so much whether it does or not. The important thing was once I changed that and cut it way back in my diet, all of a sudden I found I was feeling better. Now, that being said, yes, I got the information from other people, both personal and just both people I know, and doctors. But until I had something of experiential level to it, even I couldn't figure it out. Making the change just didn't add up. Okay. Now, everybody, in case you hadn't noticed by yesterday, the journey when I posted it yesterday was a little more on the downside, a little bit more restricted. It's because I was having a really, really bad day. Okay, a real bad wake-up call. I'd been trying to get a hold of people, couldn't get a hold of them. Either they passed away or what have you. But I ran into some other problems. And unfortunately, I'd apologize, but with this being live and with me trying to do it every day, and I do use trying quite deliberately, okay, because I don't succeed. But with my doing my best to do it every day, there are days that I'm just not going to be up to speed. There's days that I will be. Okay, I've been counseling people now since I was 10. It became public knowledge. Been dealing with UFOs and abductions and what have you since I was born. Been dealing with dream interpretation since I was 5. And I've been dealing with consulting people since I was 10. I went professional when I was 23. Professional being generating an income. Okay, but these are steps along the way. Now, do I want to go back to any of that? No. Okay, well, don't get me wrong. Most of that I'm still doing. But there are things I used to do in the past. Like, for instance, I used to drink a 26er of alcohol a night. Would I want to go back to doing that? Not a prayer. Okay. Do I still have the luxury of enjoying a drink now and then? Yes. Which most people that have been drinking that much, from what I gather, have a major problem doing that. I found a way to get away from it, where I can actually walk away from it. I can have a drink and carry on, or I can have no drinks and carry on. Doesn't matter. Okay, it's just one of those things that I figured out for me that worked like a charm. Have I helped other people do it? Yes. But it boils down to knowing up here, well, more to the point, feeling it here that it can change, finding a way to make it happen, and then physically doing it. Okay, but you're the only one on the planet that can do it for you. Okay, now I do encourage you to find a spiritual group to get together with. But find a spiritual group that does not tell you to fear whatever is going on. Okay, find a spiritual group that tells you, regardless of your race, regardless of your nationality, your orientation, or any of the differences, every individual, treat them the way you desire to be treated. Okay, now, the reality is this. I return to pass on one message, that working together, treating everybody as you desire to be treated yourself, everybody, everything. By doing that, we can, on this world, in this day and age, in this lifetime, well, in this lifetime might be a problem, okay, unless you're like newborn, at which point you're not understanding what I'm saying anyway. It's going to take years to correct it. But it is time that the spiritual guides get together and go, okay, enough of the fear. Enough of this issue of, that's the, my way is the only way of looking at it. My way isn't the only way of looking at it. It's just the only way I look at it. Okay. But I will tell you this. If you're going to believe, like, am I a believer in God? Absolutely. Am I afraid of him? Not a prayer. Okay. But if you're going to claim that God created everything, then understand God created every religion out there. Every thought process, good or evil, he created a balance. And the reason for that balance in nature, okay, and it expands all the way out. Take a look at the cell structure, all the way up to into the way that universes are built. Okay, you take a look at the similarities, and they are all running the same way. Okay, now with that in mind, you cannot have freedom of choice, and that's one that I really have to deal with. You cannot have freedom of choice if you don't have a choice. If the only option is vanilla ice cream, that's the only option. You get, do you want a vanilla ice cream or not? That's the only two. Okay. But where it comes to good and evil, there's a lot of different variation on what is evil, what's good. My personal opinion is this. If whatever you're doing is stopping somebody else from enjoying their life, okay, and do understand, take the 3 karmic laws and hold on to those first, because everything falls into those 3. If what you're doing is deliberately hurting somebody, embarrassing them, depriving them of something that they've legitimately worked for, then you're doing something wrong. Okay. If you're having problems with multiple relationships, if you're having trouble with whatever relationship you get into, they always fail. Like, I had a client that came to me one day, and they went, why can I not keep a relationship working? It'll last for about a week, week and a half. I might make a month, and then it buckles, and they leave. And I looked at him, and I says, well, whenever you're having a constant problem like that, take a look at the common denominator. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, think of it this way. You know yourself. You know your strengths, your weaknesses, your quirks, your foibles. You know yourself. He goes, yeah. I says, well, if you had the opportunity to date somebody exactly like you, albeit female in your case, would you want to? And he looks at me and goes, God, no. Wait a minute. I'm the problem? I said, absolutely. You look at the common denominator. It's basic mathematics, and in this case, it's mathematics that applies to reality. If you're repeatedly having problems with bosses over the same thing, the problem may not be the bosses. The problem may well be yourself and the way you're approaching things. If that is the case, which it probably is, talk to people around you and find out different ways of accomplishing the same outcome. Like, for instance, one method I used with one company I used to work with, I had a boss that was insistent, and they would always come out of left field and go, I need this done right away. And if I didn't get it done right away, they would complain. And, you know, they'd take a strip off me, and they'd berate me, they'd take me into the office, all sorts of things. So I turned around, I finally came to the conclusion. Worked like an absolute charm, and that's where this list really took place. Okay. I came to the conclusion, okay, he wants this done. So I've got a list of things that I had to do to start with. I'd start my day off, and I'd write down exactly what they were that I had to do. And then when my boss come in, and he said, I want this done, I'd write it at the bottom of the list, and right in front of him, I'd go, I'll get on that as soon as I get, it's next on my list. Now, again, you've only got 3 things on the list, so it's not that far down the road. But what I found happened was I'd write it down right there in front of him and carry on. Do a couple more things. I'd be just getting to his, and it's like, he'd come to me and go, I need this done right away. And I'd look at him and go, I'll put it next on the list. And he'd go, but I need it done right now. And I grab the list, I turn around and show him, but you also need this done right away. So you're not getting them both. You're getting them in the order you're giving them to me. That's the best I can do. Well, I need it done right away. I says, okay, go do it. Because I just don't have the capacity to do all of it at the same time. I've only got the one body. Now, for pity's sakes, use more tact and more diplomacy than I use. Okay, I'm not the one to talk to about tact and diplomacy. I had a boss one day that told me something, and I literally told him what to do with himself. How I didn't get fired, I have no idea. Okay, but I do know somebody else that told the same boss the same thing. Ended up getting fired. Okay, so am I the diplomat? No. Will I be honest with you? Absolutely. The only thing I've ever actually guaranteed that I can think of is that I won't lie to you to make you feel better unless you ask me to. But the long and the short of it is this. Working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But it's up to you. It's not up to the elites. It's not up to the political leaders or the religious leaders. It is up to you as an individual. It's time to reach out and start making the changes that are necessary. If you're not happy about the litter on the ground, don't add to it. Okay. Now, it won't make everything go away, but working together over time, we can correct the path. Now, with that in mind, again, give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to our channel because, I'd really appreciate that. Ideally, I would like to get this message out to the entire world. That's what I returned for, was to let people know that working together, we can make this a better world for all. But it is up to the individual. It is up to you to do your part. You're the only one that can make your world better. You can wait for somebody else to do it, but rest assured, their focus will be on them first. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to bring this to a close. I will be back tomorrow. If you're looking for a way to contact me, look at the list below this video, and you'll find a whole pile of contact points. Okay, drop me a line at any one of them. I will do my best to get back to you, or I'll end up putting another video up that accommodates it. But subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click that little bell to alert you when the new videos come up. Because I do my best to come up once a day. Problem is, I cannot guarantee what day and what time of day I'm going to do it. But with that in mind, until tomorrow, and we will be back, but until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.